Yeah. That's a new one. I'll have to check that out.
Meeting of the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. The meeting will be conducted by the chairman, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded and Robert's rules will apply. To offer comment, you must be recognized by the chairman. For meeting participants on Zoom, please use the chat function to be recognized. Text your name and address to the moderator. Your request to speak will then be passed on by staff to the chairman to be recognized. Once recognized by the chairman, unmute your microphone, and after speaking, please mute your microphone. East Hempfield Township public comment rules will apply for public comment. You must be a resident or business owner of the township to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes, or follow the chat procedure already discussed for Zoom attendance. Individual comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item discussed, with the exception of public comment when non-agenda items can be addressed. No action will be taken on any non-agenda item of a non-emergency nature during the public comment period for non-agenda items. We will now move on to our first agenda item. Please join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first task for this evening will be a public hearing. The township has initiated a petition for an amendment to the subdivision and land development ordinance to establish the amount of land required to be dedicated for parks and open space and a method to calculate any fee in lieu of dedication. The hearing has been duly advertised on September 18th and September 25th. And with that, I'll move to Mrs. Schweitzer.
So as the chairman indicated, this was a text amendment initiated by the township. And it is to further clarify how we handle park and open space dedications to the township. So when the developer comes in, he's required to provide a certain level of recreation and open space per development. That definition was rather vague in the ordinance and needed to be better defined so that we could then share that with the developers as they came in. This one requires a 0.055 acres per unit. It's a bit higher than the norm in the county. The norm in the county is about 0.04 to 0.05. But this was reviewed by the Park and Recreation Committee. They felt that that was an appropriate charge, and the ordinance is ready for your consideration.
Okay, with that, this is a text amendment that we've been reviewing and making better for the last 4 or 5 months, I believe.
Correct.
It's been under consideration. So I think we're all pretty aware of what is in it. And it's now time to move it forward. We really did need something a little clearer, more defined for the public and for the developers that do business in the township. So with that, any other comments from the board?
So I see under section 3 of the ordinance, it clarifies how we calculate the fair market value of the property. And it appears, and I think this if I'm right on this, that it's a good thing that we've taken out the tax assessment formula, and we're using appraisals and contract price.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing from the board. Any comment on this text amendment ordinance from the audience? And Zoom? Nothing there also. Okay. At this point, then, I'm going to close the hearing and poll the board as to whether or not they want to act on this now or wait till later in the meeting. I personally don't see any reason to wait till later in the meeting. We can take care of this now. When we can take care of it now.
I'm fine.
It's fine. Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, you just may want to signify that Mr. Brubaker is on Zoom and participating in the meeting via Zoom.
Okay, I'm sorry. I meant to do that. We have our fifth supervisor, Roger Brubaker, on Zoom tonight. So he's here and he'll be voting on this also. So with that, I'll hear a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-05, a text amendment to the subdivision and land development ordinance that establishes the amount of land required to be dedicated for parks and open space and a method to calculate any fee in lieu of dedication.
So moved.
I hear a motion from Mr. Johnson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I hear a second from Mr. Brubaker. Motion from Mr. Johnson, a second from Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay. From there, we can move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda addresses the approval of routine and repetitive business matters that tend to need little or no review, discussion, or deliberation. Consent items are provided to all board members for review in advance of our meeting. Is there any comment on the consent agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none. Any comment from the audience? Again, hearing none, we'll move on, and I'll hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items A and B as presented.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. I'll hear a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, a second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And then I'll hear a motion to approve consent agenda C, which is the minutes from the September 18th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Bennett. Motion-
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain from this vote. I was absent last meeting.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, a motion from Mr. Russell, a second from Mr. Bennett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next up is our action items for tonight. The first action item under consideration will be Captive Air, 1185 Enterprise Road, a final land development.
Evening, Steve Dergley with Harbor Engineering, here with Rob Strathmeyer from Warfel Construction. This is a final land development plan for 1185 Enterprise Road. It's Captive Air's research and development facility. This plan was prepared by Stocks Engineering out of North Carolina. They follow Captive Air for the various projects around the country. They engaged our office to help navigate the land development process here in Lancaster County and in the township and do some design consulting. Are you able to pull the plan up?
I'm
Diane?
getting there. I had
Thank
some
you.
computer issues. Give me just a second.
More than a second.
While it's waiting to pull up, I'll just briefly remind the board, this was seen as a sketch plan, and a waiver preliminary plan was approved several months ago. We've since gone through the land development process, but it's essentially the same plan that you saw in the sketch phase, whereby they're adding about a 5,000 square foot addition to the northwest corner of the building, and then expanding the parking in front of the building out towards Enterprise Road. There will be an underground stormwater management facility under the parking area for infiltration. The site is less than an acre, did not require an NPDS permit. And very, very little in the way of other utilities. They're adding a fire suppression system, but no additional water or sewer. Significant capacity are required for this project. It's really just to expand their facility, expand the offices a bit, and increase the employee count on the site. So, right, the building addition, again, northwest corner of the building, this is the existing building, loading area, existing parking area, and then they're proposing additional parking and stormwater management facilities close to Enterprise Road. No changes to the access drives are proposed as part of this plan. We are asking for a few modifications and waivers of the subdivision ordinance and the streets and sidewalk ordinance, and I'll go through those briefly. One is existing features within 200 feet. We have surveyed existing features within 150 feet. We're asking for a deferral from the subdivision land development ordinance for sidewalk along Enterprise Road. We're also asking for a curb and sidewalk deferral along Enterprise Road from the streets and sidewalk ordinance with the condition that a fee in lieu of be paid for milling and overlaying to the center line. And we're also asking for a modification for the landscape planting strips around portions of the site. There's some existing areas around the perimeter, both on and off the site. They're already heavily landscaped. We're proposing additional landscaping. And Diane, if you wouldn't mind going to the next sheet, please. Explain that a little bit better. Thanks. And are you able to zoom out just a little bit? Perfect. So we're proposing additional landscaping along the western property boundary adjacent to the residential properties to buffer the proposed improvements. There's an existing row of green giant arborvitaes that are 15 to 20 feet tall along the western property boundary, so we're not proposing any additional landscaping in that area. We're proposing landscaping adjacent to the additional parking area on the east side. And then the rest of the eastern portion of the property, there's underground utilities, stormwater easements, and no proposed improvements in this area adjacent to this use. And then at the northern end, which is just off the page here, there's an existing, pretty significant existing evergreen buffer that's just off the property. And that was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and by DMA with the condition that if any of those existing plants on or off site are die, then they would have to be replaced on the applicant's property. And the other request that we're making, which is not really a modification request, but it's a permission by the Board of Supervisors, is to exceed the maximum number of parking spaces. We had a parking analysis done by a traffic engineering firm that identified that based on this use, per the ITE manual, 30 parking spaces are required. They'll go up to 37 employees with this site, but they also have biweekly trainings, right? And sometimes those trainings overlap and they have vendors visit the site. So based on past experience, with the facility and what they anticipate needing, we have 75 parking spaces shown. And again, that's, if you back up one more, Cheyenne, please. That's the parking area in the front. That's to just ensure that they have enough parking when they need it. And that's the area again identified here. It is being accounted for with stormwater management facilities, so the impervious area is being accounted for. But again, it's just a special permission by the Board of Supervisors to exceed 125% of the ITE manual's maximum parking count. And again, I think I don't believe that the Planning Commission had an issue with that. And we were at the Planning Commission a few weeks ago, and they had recommended the plan and the modifications for conditional approval, and the DMA letter that we received in the county comments we have no issues with if they're part of the conditional plan approval. So with that, any questions?
Sounds, will the special approval need to be something that we'll need to vote on?
Yes, in fact, I missed that with the suggested motions, that there should be some sort of motion by the board that you're exceeding the parking requirement.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just a comment, it's always good to see businesses expanding, and to see additional hires taking place. So that's good. Second comment that, deferral is not the same as a waiver. And that in the future, those deferrals could be called if there's a need for it.
Yep, and the applicant understands that. Yep.
I also think it's great that you know your business, you know how much parking you need. I mean, I don't see any negatives or downside to this.
No.
Really.
No.
I know we try to reduce the amount of parking most of the time for people to make it easier for them to run their business. This time, we're gonna add some spaces, which sound good to me. All right, anything else here from the board? Roger, anything from you? Hearing none. How about the audience? Okay, nothing here from the audience tonight. All right, with that then. And we have everything we need from DMA.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, you're good to go.
all right.
Nate, can you assist us with a motion for the parking requirement?
Okay. I'll hear a motion to permit captive air to add parking spaces beyond the 125% maximum advised in the, what's the name of the
The ITE.
ITE? Okay, the ITE. Let's put a period on that. Okay,
I'll adopt that motion.
okay. Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Wigglesworth. A motion from Mr. Russell, a second from Mr. Wigglesworth. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Brubaker indicated that he's abstaining from this vote due to involvement within his private company.
okay. Then let's make that a 4-0 vote. All right, then, moving on. I'll ask this again because I'm not sure if I've asked it already. Any comment from the audience on this captive air modification and waivers? Final plan. Hearing none. A motion to approve the modification and waiver request number 1 and conditionally approve requests 2, 3, and 4 for 1185 Enterprise Captive Air Project, Township File 24-04.02, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Hear a motion.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, or hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, a second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And then on the final plan, a motion to approve the final plan for 1185 Captive Air Project, Township File 24-04.02, subject to all staff and engineering comments.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Russell, second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next up is our trash and recycling bid results. With that, I'll go to Mrs. Switzer for a quick review and preview.
So the township has had a single hauler system since 1990. Our contract has expired with Casella. Our current, so we did bid the project, sealed bids. We received bids from 3 haulers, Goods Disposal, Casella, and Republic. The low bidder, we did the bids based on alternates, alternate 1 and alternate 2. Alternate 1, the low bidder is Casella at $234.93. And the low bidder for alternate 2 is Republic at $258. Now that's in comparison to the $141.24 we currently pay the hauler. This bid is for simply having the hauler pick up the trash each week at your residence. Alternate 1 is, read what's on the bid tab. Refuse and recycling is picked up once a week, yard waste once a week, April through October, Christmas trees once a week in January, white goods, tires twice a year. Utilizing contractor cost center and a direct line between the customer and the contractor. So this is essentially the same service you have now, except the cost center is now the hauler. Alternate 2 is an automated service. The contractor will provide 96-gallon refuse, 65-gallon recycling containers at each customer unit. Those also come in 65-gallon and 36-gallon, which are at the other side of the room from Republic. Services for curb cart contents only for both refuse and recycling. So all your trash and recycling would need to be in the containers. Yard waste is still picked up once a week, April through October. Christmas trees 1 time in January. There is a difference here with the white goods and tires and the oversized items. We're trying to get away from the tag system. And those will be picked up on a monthly basis on a pre-arranged. Notice for pickup will have to be sent to the hauler to arrange that scheduling. And they also will be using the call center as opposed to our calls, as opposed to the township line.
Okay. I see we have representatives here from both organizations.
There are
Yeah.
Casella and Republic.
It's appropriate for them to speak if they would like.
Not necessarily, no.
No?
No, we have the bid. We're acting on the bid as presented.
Okay. All right. If that's the case, then I'll start this off by saying that I support the bid by Republic for the automated service. I support that because makes the pickup uniform for everyone in the community. Pickup is safer. It's more environmentally friendly. And there's an economic and efficiency here that we're getting that we don't have now. Their proposal limits the resident expense. At a minimum, people will save on their trash bags, which can get expensive. They provide carts at no extra charge to the customer, which would be a $200, at a minimum, a $200 value for every resident. I think the monthly pickup of white goods, tires, and large items with no tags or no extra charges benefits most in the community. And again, as you pointed out, we maintain our yard waste and Christmas tree disposal. The big part of this is it transfers the staff responsibilities for customer service to the provider. And it eliminates the recycle bin cost that we have here in the township, the cost and the storage of all of this. And again, it eliminates the tag system. So I like this one. It does cost $23.07 more per year, which is the cost of a box of trash bags. But I think that we're getting something here of a lot more value, where on the other side of the coin, we're not getting for the increase from the other provider. we're really not getting much of a benefit. So with that, I'll open this up to the other members of the board.
Okay, I'll start. I'm planning on voting for Casella. I started this process quite open to both approaches, but I've spoken to about a dozen people from a wide variety of locations. I talked to a homeowners association president, someone I didn't know, but I reached out to that person. And surprisingly, everybody was quite happy with the current Casella service that I spoke to, including myself. My experience has been very good. I've been looking at the trash in the development behind me, and I see a lot of things on Sunday evening, and then Monday morning I check it out and everything's taken care of. I see a lot of different types of containers. I talked to people who recently bought containers and wanted to continue using the same ones. There's just an anecdote. When I started this position, someone said to me, just don't mess with people's trash and you'll do okay. So, you know, I just think a lot of people are quite happy. Everyone I spoke to is quite happy with Casella. And there were concerns, as this says, about like homeowners associations having to deal with the containers, possibly large containers, as well as, you know, for myself, I just put bags out and don't have to pick anything up afterwards. And there was concerns about like areas that have tight streets where there's like large containers in the street as opposed to, you know, the current environment. So that's my position.
My position hasn't changed from 5 years ago at this point. I'll be going with Casella. They're the cheaper alternative by about $1 million over 5 years, subtracting out any large appliance tags that some residents will have to pay, which is not a big number. I had heard a lot of issues in the past when we talked about making the change with the one size fits all. So I will be supporting Casella. I'm happy with the performance those guys do. And in both situations, we've gone away from providing the call center services, which was the biggest grievance our staff had. So that went away with this bid. So that addresses a concern that we had with that issue. So my choice would be Casella.
Can we hear from Roger?
Yes, I would say I don't have a extremely strong feeling one way or the other, but I think Casella, I agree. One size doesn't really fit all. As much as I like the idea of automation and the worker safety aspect of the larger containers and automation, I'm feeling like I'm leaning toward the Casella as well, due to just the cost, somewhat of cost savings there, and yeah, I'm not hearing a lot of complaints of folks wanting to go to at least that I've heard, of wanting to go to the larger containers and automated service.
So last time around, I was for the automation and we had a big outcry from the community at that time that they didn't want any change whatsoever. It was pretty significant. But this time, I understand that's not the case. We haven't heard from anybody or it's 50-50 if I understood the.
It's not a huge response, but yeah, 50-50 at this point.
And I'm assuming it doesn't look like there's anybody here from the audience so I stand corrected. Maybe we want to hear from the audience first. But one other factor I would just point out, we just had for public safety I guess I would call it a pre-budget meeting before they send their request off to you guys. We are going to have some significant capital expenditures coming up. And I know it's not a lot of money, but I think after hearing what I heard tonight, we are all going to want to be very dollar conscious moving forward. That's, I guess, where I'm at looking at the low bid.
Okay. I think we know where everyone is. At this point, then I'll open it up to the audience for comment.
David Hughes from Huntington Place. I've had nothing but good experience with Casella. They've been courteous, they've been punctual. They take a lot of time to make sure that there's not a lot of trash left behind. And I don't have a 96-gallon tank sitting in my garage so that now I can't get my car in the garage. And if I go to the two small ones, what does that save me? Now I've thrown away three large plastic cans that'll do nothing, and I have two more that will do the same that they did. And then if I don't have to use plastic bags, I got garbage, fresh garbage sitting in my garage for a week. And that gets flies. And I don't think anybody wants that. I think this automated system is great for a big city where you go down and you dump it in your basement and somebody comes in and drags it out onto the street and the truck comes by. And I think for this community with the job that Casella has been doing, it's just not appropriate.
Okay.
As far as the safety factor, I haven't seen too many issues in this community with the trash trucks being in accidents. And it's usually cars running into the back of the trash trucks on the highways, not when people are picking up trash. So I think that's a very small issue. I would be very much against having it, especially in the case where we have a few people in our neighborhood who are pretty old. And they have a hard time getting their regular garbage out, and they usually just put a plastic bag out, and they won't be able to do that anymore. And the idea of a 96-gallon tank in your garage, think about where you're putting your car.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment. Fred?
Fred Knar, 109 Clover Circle. I could probably go for both, but I have to voice some of the same things. I've seen some of my neighbors and people driving around, and they have that same issue. Either they come down with a cart or a walker or something, and they're dragging their little bag. And on a slope, on a hill, I can't envision them dragging this thing down that's very heavy. I mean, for them, I mean, again, I'm good with either of these options, but I can't envision them dragging these things down. And are they going to stay stable at the end of the driveway? Are they going to fall over? I don't know what the dynamics of the cans are, but I think of my mom for all those years when she lived here and before she passed. It's dragged that little bag out. There's nothing to haul back and forth. My neighbor, every week, he has his tiny little bag out there also. He hauls nothing back and forth. He stores nothing else. So I would opt for the generation of people that we have in the township to go with the existing hauler. So thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Anything from Zoom?
No.
Anything from anyone else? You know, my final comment would be that I can see what direction this is going. I would say, however, that automation is coming, okay? It's coming with Casella also. If you go to their website, first page of their website, they've got an automated truck. So we'll see this in the future here, and you know, it's something that we're going to have to get used to, but not right now, it would appear. So with that,
And I would concur with what you just said. The numbers here too got very, very close this time around. Very, very close to what automation is. And I would imagine the next go around, that's probably going to be reversed. That the automation may even come in cheaper than what the labor costs are. So I agree with Mr. Bennett. This is in our future, just not today.
Okay. Okay, so I'll hear a motion to accept the 225 or 2025 trash recycling bid from Casella at a unit price of $234.93. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, vote aye on that. Okay,
Did you hear Mr. Brubaker's vote?
I could not unmute. I'm an aye.
thank you. So the motion passes 4-1. All right, next up, we have the Church Knoll Road Park Project. A motion to authorize entering into a contract with GSL Government Consulting to provide consulting and grant advisory services in connection with the development of the Church and Knoll Park project. Mrs. Schweitzer, anything more to add?
No, the Park and Rec group met with two agencies that provide this service and have issued a recommendation for GSL. We do have a contract, the particulars of which are a fee-based cost. So what they will do is look for grants, large grants for us, and they will take a percentage of whatever that the township is awarded. So that's about all I have. What I do, if you do move forward with the motion, what I would ask is that you add pending solicitor approval. She's looked at it, made some changes, but there's some other minor things that should change before we actually sign. But she's generally okay with the contract.
Okay. Any question from the board? Okay, hearing none, I can say that this authorization has been discussed in our Parks and Recreation, with our Parks and Recreation group. And we like this we think this is a great path forward, great way forward on this. Their services don't cost us anything unless they get us the grants that we're looking for. We had discussions with other organizations that were more of a fee-based, they took a more fee-based approach, and we decided to move in this direction. I'd also note that GSL modified their fee for us. So we did do a little negotiating on this to get the eventual fee down when and if they connect on the grant. Okay, anything from the audience on this? Okay,
Yeah, can I
sure.
make a comment for the purpose of the audience? Like last year, before I was on the board, there was discussions about the Church Knoll Road Park, and that we would want to use, from what I recall, that we would want to use like no taxpayer money for this. And so this is the type of thing that I think will permit that to happen, to get grants that are large enough to make a significant dent into, that project, which I think a lot of us are really looking forward to. That all true?
Yes.
All right, good.
Well, to be more accurate, my recollection is that we would not increase taxes to put a park in. Anytime we spend, whatever money that we spend on anything, we utilize taxpayer money. We were specific about this. We didn't want to increase the burden on taxpayers by raising taxes for this type of project. And again, that's my recollection.
Yeah, and thank you for that correction because, yeah, that is a much better way of putting it, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Anything from the audience on this again? Okay. Hearing no comment from the audience, I'll entertain a motion to authorize entering into a contract with GSL Government Consulting to provide consulting and grant advisory services in connection with the development of the Church Knoll Park project, pending approval by our solicitor.
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Johnson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. A motion from Mr. Johnson. Second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5, Roger?
Yes, aye.
Gotcha, 5-0. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have an Industrial Development Authority IDA request for a signature for a certificate of approval regarding the issuance of a tax exempt bond for the Homestead Village project. Mrs. Schweitzer.
So the IDA was formed as a conduit to allow the issuance of tax exempt bonds. It has no impact at all in the financials of the township, but we are required under the law to adopt or accept the certificate of approval, which is for the Homestead project that I believe is going to be borrowing 500 million to complete the project. Again, simply a conduit, but it's the tax code that we have to work through. They have to work through between them and the bank.
Okay. So all we're looking for is approval to sign,
Correct,
not putting us on the hook for anything.
correct.
Okay, thank you. Anything from the board?
That's routine.
How about from the audience? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I think I should abstain from this vote as well.
Okay, Roger, thank you. Okay, with that, I'll hear a motion to reaffirm the authorization of chairman to sign the certificate of approval regarding the issuance of a tax exempt bond for the Homestead Village project. Hear a motion.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Next up, we have an action item, foreign fire relief distribution of $219,566.06. Mrs. Schweitzer, just give us a overview, please.
So the foreign fire relief distribution is an annual distribution that is sent to the township, and we are mandated within 30 days to issue that back to the fire companies. Last year, we had a percentage of 60-40. It's the recommendation, I believe, of the chief fire official and probably the public safety, that distribution be amended to say 50-50.
Was last year split 3 ways?
I
No,
think
2.
previous year
That was the first year of 2.
And we moved that 20% from the third way over to Roorstown because there was a major capital equipment purchase that needed to be made. And so that was Chief Cotmeyer's recommendation at that time, with the expectation that we would split 50-50 moving forward between the two companies that serve the township.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So we're back into balance now.
But both fire companies do a very good job in the township, and this is a fair way to spread the funds out.
Agreed.
Any comment from the audience? Okay, hearing none. I'll hear a motion to authorize the annual distribution of the foreign fire relief to Roorstown Fire and Hempfield Fire based on a 50-50 split.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Brubaker, second from Mr. Bennett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. And finally, we have a pollution reduction plan amendment, which we discussed at the last meeting. Mrs. Schweitzer?
We did discuss this the last meeting. There was a public comment period, which is why we didn't take action at the last meeting. That is coming up for completion. We have not received any comments. What this is an amendment to our pollution reduction plan under our MS4 program. It's in connection with the work that has been done off of Marietta Avenue near the Barcrest Apartments. It's a $25,000 or 25,000 pounds of sediment, thank you. That's been removed from there, and it's a credit to our MS4 program, our municipal program for stormwater.
Okay. Any discussion from the board?
None.
I have none.
Good looking project. I'm glad we can support what's going on there. All right, with that, I'll hear anything from the audience on this. Hearing none, I'll hear a motion to authorize the submission of the amended pollution reduction plan to DEP as discussed.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Russell, second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Okay. That completes our action items for this evening. Next up is old business. Do we have any old business to discuss here tonight? Okay, any new business? Seeing and hearing none. Any public comment this evening? Mr. Hughes.
In lieu of the announcement that Penn State lost $74 million, has there been any discussions on what they're going to contribute to East Hempfield in lieu of their taxes? Doesn't that come up this year?
We are under a community support agreement for 5 years.
I think
This
that's
is the,
up, isn't it?
this is
No.
the second year, so
The second year that it
Correct.
started, okay.
yes,
But I was misunderstood. I
Yeah.
thought it was back when they started their construction.
no, well, no, it wasn't actually.
Are they
We're-
paying their bills?
We received 2 payments, yes.
Right, Knar, 109 Clover Circle. I saw there was discussion last couple of weeks about something to do with issuing possible solicitation permits for the township. And as the people keep coming to my house, I keep thinking, what happened? Well, I have a no solicitation sign, so they usually avoid my house. But my question would be if we proceed with that, it would probably be really good to let everybody in the township know what that certificate would look like, because the first time somebody comes to my house, if that got passed, I would say, show me your permit, and I wouldn't know if they were just showing me a piece of paper or they were showing me something true. So just for future, if that ever happens, I'd appreciate you sharing that with the community so we know what's going on. Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. Okay. Anything else for public comment this evening? All right, let's move on to our manager report.
As I understand, there's not a whole lot going on with the Centerville Road project. It's moving forward, no glitches. 2025 is the completion date-ish. Old Roystown Road, again, also moving forward, still hoping to get that finished by the end of October. Nothing really new to report there. Farmingdale Road, we are narrowing down on those grant reimbursement requests, so that should be going forward, and we should have the money in the bank by the end of the year. The next zoning hearing board validity challenge hearing for Colebrook Apartments is Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m. There's probably going to be at least 3 more meetings of that on the Colebrook side, and then probably 2 meetings on our side once we present our case. So sometime next year. I did have a meeting with our traffic engineer today regarding the Route 72 and Lidditz Road. We are scheduling a meeting with the local landowner, and that is, I understand it, ready to be bid. So that is moving forward as well. I had a meeting with Dewberry, which is representing PennDOT. They did a study on the Route 72 corridor. They're beginning their study work to see what is the best way of handling the corridor between, which covers the Greystone Road intersection and also the Route 72 intersection. It's really preliminary at this point. They're just getting ideas, and that's the process that PennDOT has to work through to eventually come up with a solution to that area. The Amesbury Phase 2, Lobar is working on the bocce courts. That's probably going to be completed by the end of October, at which point they will be moving to the parking lot and getting that done. Depending upon weather will be dependent on if we're having a top coat on that this year or in the spring. The Jacobs Creek Park equipment is in place. You have pictures of that in your manager's report. Looks very nice. The Knoll Dorrit Park, we are very pleased and happy to announce that Senator Ament has found $350,000 to move that project forward. So we should be getting that shortly, which then allows us to start really planning that project and getting the bidding in place. We talked about the foreign fire, trash recycling. There is something new that we just heard today. The Spooky Nook Road is going to be closed. Could you kind of brief them on that? I'm sorry to jump on you.
Yes, the 283 Commerce Hub project requires a water line extension across Spooky Nook Road. So likely in 2 weeks, we will have a one-night closure of Spooky Nook between the 283 ramps and Broad Street to allow them to run that water line across the road, trench it, put the line in, and then fill it back in. Originally in the plan, it was slated for day work. The contractor took it upon themselves to reach out to PennDOT and the township to request to do it during the night, recognizing how much construction or traffic is going through their construction zone. So once we have the confirmed date on that, we'll put that out along with the detour route on our different pages and things to get that out to everyone.
The stormwater projects, I did want to mention the Nisley and Gloucester road basins. We received 2 bids. One was extremely high, the other one was fairly high at 1.3 million. That was originally supposed to be about a $470,000 project. We have 363,000 towards the project, and we are meeting on Thursday to see how we can right-size it, modify it, some way to get that done, so we don't lose the grant money that we already have. The McFarland Basin, we were trying to reach the 3 businesses over there. 2 of them responded. We have now reached out to the 3rd, and he has been responsive, so that mowing should happen over there as well. So hopefully they'll maintain it now on a twice-a-year basis to keep those invasives under control. That's all I got, unless there's questions.
Just want to mention on Centerville Road, they looked like they were putting down a lot of blacktop today. So things are moving along there
Right.
very well.
Yeah,
Okay.
their schedule's doing well in terms of how far away the,
I think they're
And
sort
is-
of, I think they're sort of hedging a little bit, really. I think they're going to be finished ahead of time, but we'll see.
In reference to that, there will be night paving with lane restrictions probably for the next month as they try to get as much wearing course down as they can before we start seeing stopping for pavement. Now, they do have an extension in for late season paving, but we will see lane closures, no full roadway closures, but lane closures to complete that paving from Marietta all the way down past Columbia Avenue.
Sounds good.
I did want to also mention that we did have a public safety meeting this evening. And Mr. Wigglesworth did mention that the budget is not looking great right now. We have some work to do. There is pressure from police department as well as the fire department and EMS in terms of funding levels. That's part of the problem. The admin finance group is meeting next Thursday. They will have a preview of the budget, and then our budget meeting is scheduled for 4:30 on the 22nd. So we're moving through the process, making adjustments as we move along.
Okay. With that, anything more for the good of the cause this evening?
One thing
Mr. Hughes, you'll need to go to the microphone.
I was reading about the new supposedly new idea of the Armstrong property and how they want to put in housing, and it's a rather large development in that area. Have you all been familiar with the idea that is being advanced by I?
We hear something's going on, yeah. Mhm.
But it's going to have an incredible impact on East Hempfield, incredible. Because where are they going to go to get to Route 30? How they get into Route 30? How they get into Route 283?
I can tell you that we have people thinking about that right now.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yes,
I
we
hope
do.
so. I hope that there's a meeting with the the Lancaster County Board, because it's just going to be terrible. And
Well-
we'll be paying for having our roads repaired due to all the heavy traffic from other municipalities. Thank you. I won't come next time.
No, that's fine. But they're everybody's roads. They're not just East Hempfield roads or West Hempfield roads or,
When you gotta fix them, they're ours.
well,
Okay.
I understand that, but it's,
Well, then, there you go.
okay.
We're gonna miss you next meeting.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. What do you think? Penn State's going out of business?
Yeah, we're gonna have a challenge budget wise coming up. There,